POV. You were born in Phuket, Thailand. And this is your whole life. You were born on the island of Phuket, in southern Thailand. Your family is not rich and not poor. Your father works on a longtail boat, ferrying tourists out to the small islands every morning before the sun gets too high. Your mother runs a small food stall near the edge of Krathong, selling sum tam and grilled pork skewers to people who will forget her face by dinner. You grow up in a wooden house a few streets back from the beach, close enough to hear the ocean at night, far enough that no tourist ever wanders down your road by accident. Your grandmother lives in the same house, in the room closest to the small shrine by the front door. Every morning, someone in your family lights incense at a spirit house on a pole in the yard, a small wooden shelter built for the spirits of the land your house stands on, offering rice, flowers, and sometimes a bottle of red soda, because even spirits, your grandmother says, get thirsty. 3 generations share one roof, one kitchen, and one set of rules about respect that nobody ever needs to write down. Every morning before school, you wake up before the sun and wait outside with a small bowl of rice. Monks walk barefoot down your street in orange robes, collecting alms in near silence. You place the rice in the bowl, and the monk blesses your family without a single word spoken. This happens every day of your childhood. You do not think of it as spiritual or exotic. It is just Tuesday. At school, you wear a uniform, press your palms together, and bow your head slightly to every teacher who enters the room. It is called the way. You do it without thinking by the time you are 5 years old. Respect is not a lesson here. It is the air you breathe. 95% of the island shares your religion. Buddhism is not something you choose. It is something you are born already standing inside of. The way you are born already standing on an island. Your island has a second religion, and it is tourism. Every year, millions of people fly for over 10 hours, cross oceans and time zones, just to stand on the beach 40 meters from your house. To them, this water is a bucket list item. To you, it is where you learn to swim before you could properly walk. They call it paradise. You call it home. Both of those things are true at the same time, and neither cancels out the other. On December 26, 2004, you are a small child. The morning is ordinary until it is not. The ocean pulls back from the shore, further than anyone has ever seen it go, exposing wet sand and stranded fish for hundreds of meters. Tourists walk out to look, curious, taking photographs of something they do not understand. The locals understand immediately, and they start screaming for everyone to run. A wave taller than any building on your street comes in from the horizon. The Indian Ocean tsunami kills over 5,000 people in Thailand alone that morning, a large share of them right here on Phuket's western coast. Whole sections of Patong and Kamala are erased in minutes. Your family survives, not because of luck alone, but because your grandmother remembered a story from her own childhood about the sea pulling back before it takes something. She was already running before the sirens existed. Not everyone on your street is as fortunate. For years afterward, an early warning system of towers and sirens rises along the coastline, built only after the worst possible lesson had already been paid for in full. Every December 26th for the rest of your life, a memorial ceremony is held on the beach at dawn, monks chanting, flowers laid on the water, names read aloud of those the sea took that morning. Tourists walking past in swimsuits sometimes stop, confused, not understanding why locals are crying on a beach that looks, to them, like any other perfect morning. You grow up faster after that morning than any child should have to. The tourists who survive go home and tell the story for the rest of their lives. You do not get to go home. You already are home. The beach reopens within months. The hotels rebuild, repaint, reopen for business, because business is the only thing keeping your island's economy breathing at all. You watch new tourists lay towels down on the same sand where, a few years earlier, your neighbors did not make it out in time. They do not know this. You do. You carry that knowledge quietly, the way almost everyone on this island your age carries it. Your childhood continues, because childhood does not wait for grief to finish. You help at your mother's stall after school, learning to grill pork on skewers exactly the way she taught you, timing it by smell more than by a clock. You learn enough English from tourists to make small talk about the weather and the price of coconuts, long before you ever study it properly in a classroom. Code switching between Thai and broken tourist English becomes second nature before you are 10. Not every family on the island depends on the beach. Some of your cousins live further inland, where the tourists never go, working rubber plantations at dawn, tapping trees for latex before the heat sets in an economy almost nobody in Patong ever thinks about. Phuket sells the world an image of white sand and blue water, but half the island survives on rubber, fishing, and small farms tourists will never photograph. On weekends, your family visits the Big Buddha, a 45-meter white marble statue on a hilltop overlooking the entire island. Tour buses arrive in waves, cameras raised. For the tourists, it is a photo opportunity. For your grandmother, it is where she comes to actually pray. You learn to hold both realities in your head without them fighting each other. In November, the island celebrates Loi Krathong. After dark, your family walks to the water's edge, carrying small floating vessels made of folded banana leaves, decorated with flowers, a candle, and a single coin. You light the candle, make a silent wish, and release it onto the water, watching hundreds of tiny flickering lights drift out into the dark sea alongside everyone else's. It is meant to carry away a year of bad luck and misfortune. Some tourists buy a Krathong from a stall just to try it once. For you, it is the same water that once turned into something monstrous, and also the same water your family has trusted every single day since. Every April, the whole island erupts into Songkran, the Thai New Year. And for 3 days, total strangers soak each other with water guns and buckets in the street, laughing, forgiving an entire year of grievances in a single drenched afternoon. Tourists join in, thinking it is simply a party. For your family, it is a cleansing, washing away the old year to make room for the next one. You grow into your teenage years working more hours at the stall, watching an island that runs almost entirely on other people's vacations. The resorts along the coast charge, for one night, more than your mother earns in a month. You do not resent this the way an outsider might expect you to. It is simply the shape of the world you were born into, the same way the tsunami was, the same way the temple bells at dawn are. By your late teens, you have a second-hand motorbike, weaving through traffic between school, the stall, and your friends' houses. Some of your friends fall in with backpackers passing through, young foreigners living cheaply for a few weeks, working odd jobs in hostels, telling everyone back home they are basically locals now. You watch them save nothing and worry about nothing, because in 3 weeks, every one of them has a return flight and a bank account waiting quietly at home. You have neither. Your version of this island was never a chapter with an ending date. Then, in early 2020, a virus reaches your island from the other side of the world. Within weeks, the flights stop. Not delayed, stopped entirely. For months that stretch into most of 2 years, an island whose entire bloodstream is tourism suddenly has no tourists at all. Patong Beach, usually shoulder to shoulder with sunburned strangers, sits completely empty, a wide stretch of pale sand with not a single footprint on it for the first time in living memory. Your father's boat sits tied to the dock, unused for the longest stretch of his working life. Your mother's stall closes for months at a time. Hotels lay off staff by the thousands. Some families on your street leave the island entirely, moving inland to relatives' farms just to eat. Your family stays, because leaving Phuket has never once occurred to any of you as a real option. In 2021, the government launches something called the Phuket Sandbox, a program letting vaccinated foreign visitors quarantine free on the island alone, hoping just a trickle of tourists might keep something alive. Only a fraction of the promised numbers ever come. Families you have known your whole life start fishing again, the old way, the way your grandmother's generation did before the resorts arrived. Not for tourists, but simply to eat. Neighbors share what they grow. Nobody on your street has ever needed a word for food insecurity before. Now everyone quietly learns one. You watch the news call your home a ghost town, a phrase built for headlines, describing streets that are, to you, simply silent, in a way you had never once heard them before. Slowly, over 2 brutal years, the flights start again. The tourists come back changed, a little more careful, a little more grateful, though most of them will never know what those 2 empty years cost the people who were already living here before they arrived, and will still be living here after they leave. You are an adult now. You still live a few streets back from the beach, close enough to hear the ocean at night. You have buried people the tsunami took. You have watched an entire economy vanish and slowly crawl back from nothing. You have bowed to 1,000 teachers, fed 1,000 monks, and grilled pork on 1,000 identical skewers for people who will never remember your face. You have lit 1,000 candles on 1,000 folded banana leaves, releasing them into water that once took people you loved. You have watched cousins tap rubber trees at dawn, in a part of the island tourists will never see, and friends chase backpackers who leave after 3 weeks while you stay for every single year that follows. Millions of strangers will come to this island every single year for the rest of your life, chasing a version of paradise that lives for 1 week in their photographs. For you, it was never a vacation. It was the entire shape of a life, sacred mornings, a wave that took people you loved, an empty beach that came back to life, and a home that outsiders only ever get to borrow for a little while. You were born in Phuket, Thailand, and this is your whole life.